That seems to have become quite normal because gold is again being treated as a monetary metal, a true flight to safety asset.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and plenty going on in the gold and silver world and markets today. And fortunately, I am joined by a longtime guest who you can see over there is Lynette Zang of Zang Enterprises, a long time, as young and beautiful as she is, a longtime student. All of your 35 years, you've been, you had the gold and silver bars in the crib, so you started studying early to get decades of experience. And certainly at this particular time where I think people are in general confused. I mean, it's hard to know what the rules are going to look like tomorrow. So great to have you on in here. And Lynette, how are you today?
I am very happy to be here, Chris. It's good to see you. It's very good to see you.
Well, likewise, and I don't know if you're just saying that because gold has been continuing to soar. I don't recall I think it was last year when we did this, although I'm pretty sure that the gold price was not up in the 3,400 range. We're recording Tuesday afternoon here on the East Coast, and as I'm sure many people are aware by now, we did cross 3,500 briefly on Monday night. So why don't we start with any thoughts you have? I don't know what else to add to this one at this point. Pretty stunning what we've seen over the past year and a half. But why don't we start there with gold and your reaction to what we've seen, where now down almost over $100 from last night's peak. So why don't you share your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is how truly undervalued gold is right at this moment, not that 3,500, because that's just Wall Street telling you what this is worth. And we all know there ain't no good price discovery coming out of Wall Street. It's all about a trading market. So I say you continue to accumulate, you continue to stack, because we haven't seen anything yet. I would also say that when I first came into the gold space, even though on some level I've been in it my whole life, way more than 35 years, but thank you very much, Chris, that if we had a 50-cent move, that was a big move back around 2002, 3, 4. Now, we knew that these days when you'd see a $100 move one way or the other, and that seems to have become quite normal because gold is again being treated as a monetary metal, a true flight to safety asset. And what else is there, Chris? What else is there?
Well, they don't make a lot of the choices appetizing, especially as it seems we're likely headed towards more rate cuts and QE. So you could always buy stocks, hope the Fed inflates another bubble, which most likely I expect they will. Actually, there's a question for you before we take a look at silver. Do you think we're ever going to get the deflationary collapse, which, if governments and central banks stepped aside, is what, at least according to my math, would seemingly be inevitable or have already occurred? Or do you think, I tend to lean towards, I don't know that they'll let us see a 2008 crash like that. I would just keep screaming in my brain that they're going to print the heck out of this thing before we ever get there. But any thoughts on that before we touch on silver?
Yeah, I certainly do have a lot of thoughts on that because we could be experiencing the melt up, but I absolutely agree that all they really have is this. That doesn't solve anything. And by the way, I have a $10 trillion Zimbabwe note in this mess of currency that no longer exists. Here it is, a $10 trillion Zimbabwe note, which means I'm a trillionaire in Zimbabwe, but I can't buy eggs with it. So every time they shoot off their printing presses, what does that do but devalue the currency that's out there? And we're already, okay, officially we're at 3 cents, but honestly, we're already at 0. And the other part of this is that what we are experiencing and witnessing right now is not just a collapse of confidence in the US, but a global collapse of confidence in the US. And what does that mean? Look, the US used to be the go-to for stocks and bonds and all of that stuff because after all, treasuries are risk-free, which is garbage. They never were risk-free and they certainly aren't anymore. But what we're witnessing is both gold and I know silver has been lacking, and we'll talk more about that because silver is the secondary, what is that? Monetary metal. Gold is the primary monetary metal. Silver is the second. So, yeah, I have lots of thoughts on what I think. I think we will see a melt up in these markets. And particularly if President Trump has his way and gets control over the monetary policies over at the central bank, welcome MMT on steroids, because we're already experiencing that. Modern money theory, where they want to spend money, all they do is they print it into existence.
Yeah, Lynette, by the way, where's my gun? I thought I was promised one of those last year. And although more importantly, I'm wondering, when you do try and buy the eggs, do you take the gun to the supermarket and just spray that around random people? Or maybe when you get to the checkout register, if something's too expensive, just shoot them with it and see
No,
if...
wait, what I need for eggs is probably this quarter, this pre-1964 silver quarter. And this I could take to the grocery store soon and buy eggs. But fortunately for me, I have my backyard chickens, so I haven't had an issue with eggs, and I've been able to share lots of eggs, which I think is very important, that we do share all the gifts that we've been given. I get to eat my eggs first, but when I have abundance, share, and help people understand what's happening. Because really, when push comes to shove, at the end of the day, what we're experiencing is the end of this fiat government debt-based monetary system. And what we need and what gold and silver really does, because we all know, well, I hope we all know, that when one monetary system dies, another one pops up in its place. If you're holding the physical gold and silver, this is your bridge to keep your purchasing power intact and to get you from one system into the other system. And it doesn't mean that once you get into that other system that you put all of your gold and silver in that system. It doesn't mean that at all, because like we've seen in Venezuela, in Argentina, in Zimbabwe, and many more countries that are experiencing and have experienced hyperinflation, those Venezuela and Zimbabwe are on their sixth iteration of new money, and nothing is working because they have lost that confidence. The confidence, in my opinion, is the single most important thing that's holding all of this together, and we're losing both of them. So I do see that big deflationary push in there, and then the hyperinflationary money printing machine to take us to that next level. And you've got to have that bridge. You've got to have that community to secure your position in food, water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is about silver, wealth preservation, which for me is about gold, community, because we don't have time to do all of these things. Most people don't. I've been working on this since 2008. And shelter. These are the things that we need so that if the government says or the central banks say jump, you don't have to say how high. You go, nope, not jumping today. And if more people do that, guess what? We, the public, imagine this, Chris, we, the public, get to take back control of our lives and our future and, oh, dare I say it, our freedom in a system that wants a full surveillance economy. We have a choice. We have an opportunity to say no and take our power back. This is the best opportunity I've ever seen for this, to be able to get sound money, gold and silver, back in the system again, must be redeemable. You must be able to take it out, or it doesn't mean anything. Look at Zimbabwe gold. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, well, I certainly get what you're saying there. And actually, two comments. First, I was getting ready to write my column for today and already had this note up. This came from Bloomberg article on Tuesday about gold. Interesting quote here. Gold's rapid ascent this year tells me the markets have less confidence in the US than ever, and the Trump trade narrative has evolved into a sell America narrative. Now, I'm not familiar with Li Liang Lei or the Callanish Index Services, although maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. Yet to the degree I think that when you see things blasted like this through Bloomberg, which is one of the most well-known financial publications, right or not, it starts to become the reality. And I don't know, wish I knew how close we were to that. Although, Lynette, when you talk about redeemable gold and silver, I mean, in a sense, I suppose it's redeemable right now, but distinguishing between what we think should happen or would be ideal versus what will happen, do you think that we're going to see that? Obviously, I've been giggling here with some of the Scott Bessent comments over the past couple months where he talked about monetizing the assets on the balance sheet, then said he wasn't referring to gold. He did say that his friends at his hedge fund used to call him the gold bug, which I thought was interesting. Did you see that clip with him and Tucker Carlson?
I missed that, but please mark that down because I think we need to watch it.
I'm going to send you my version. I made some commentary. I couldn't resist when I think he basically inferred that, he talked about his friend's grandmother who traded her currency before the war for 18 bicycles. Tucker says, well, how'd that work out? He's like, oh, it was great. Like, is the Treasury Secretary, is he giving advice there? Should I go get some bicycles today?
Well, really what he was talking about was barterability, because when a currency is imploding, anything physical has more value than the collapsing currency, hence this $10 trillion note, or goodness gracious, I don't know, how about this Confederate note? What can I buy with this Confederate note? Can I go to the South and buy anything? But if I have a bicycle and somebody wants a bicycle and they have and they have a big cooking pot that I want, then you're bartering for that. What gold and silver are universal barter tools. That's what they are, because they're used in every single sector of the global economy. So you have the broadest base of demand. That's why they've never gone to zero. So I know it seems, look, it wasn't all that long ago. I saw on one of the videos that I did, and it probably wasn't maybe 8 months ago, where I said something like, I know $3,000 gold sounds outrageous. Well, here we are. So is this a surprise? No. When I was looking at 25-cent movements on the spot price of gold, I said, one of these days we are going to see these big movements. And I got to tell you that in 2013, that's when the two biggest buyers of our treasuries started to not buy as much and reduce their holdings. And I'm talking about Japan and China. And when you take a look on the Federal Reserve Education Department for foreign holders of our debt, what do you see? You see that since 2000, it's been pretty much a rocket ship getting faster and faster and faster into every single crisis, because the world was treating the dollar and the treasuries as a flight to safety asset. But you also can see, if you pull that up, that number one, that has been shifting with China and Japan, others absorbing it since 2013, and now there's not enough absorption. And you also have to understand, which I think this is fascinating. I don't know exactly what the connection is, but again, the Federal Reserve Education Department on the Fed, and you look at the Treasury holdings that they have, And what you see is they started buying in like 2000 as well. So, we think that this is just happening now, but the reality is that this system has been breaking down and breaking down and breaking down for a very long time. And what this administration is doing is just pushing us over the edge, which sooner or later we had to go over that edge. This debt is not payable. And when you're compounding interest, as anybody with a credit card that is not paying all of the interest, let alone any of the principal, so what does that do? That means that all of that interest now goes into the principal and you are compounding interest. You are never, ever, ever getting out of debt. The only way to protect yourself, because what are these things? They're debt. That's what they are. It's not money. It's debt. What's this? It's money. What's this? It's money. This one place as a tool of barter. And so right now with the world, and we're seeing this with what's happening with the Treasury interest rates and the failed Treasury auctions that have been coming up, the world is turning its back on US dollars and the dollar denominated assets. And it creates this doom loop, because what do? That is, the Treasury bonds underpin the global economy. And so the world was supporting them, but now they're not supporting them anymore. And so that creates problems in the treasuries themselves, which underpin the global economy, which then people shun it more. And can you see that loop, that doom loop? So this is a really huge problem. It's not something that I'm waiting to happen. It's something that I'm watching already happening. And now for probably, I'd have to go back, but I'm going to say maybe about a year-ish. I'd have to go back and look. But I've been saying that we have already entered that phase of hyperinflation. It's just not noticeable to the public yet. And that's technicals. That's just, that's just watching the velocity of money, how the speed at which money changes hands, and that pattern shift. And we just had a recent major pattern shift talking about confidence with consumer sentiment breaking a key support pattern to the downside. These are not good indicators internally or externally for those that are sitting in dollar denominated assets. They better push these stock markets up. They better push these crypto markets up, because they need eyes on them. They need people to think, it's going to be okay. Look at how much these things are going up. But they're going up in terms of this 10 trillion times zero is zero. Probably went on a little tangent there. Sorry about that.
No, it was lovely. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking back to this one yesterday where, in addition to the tariffs, then Trump tries to round up countries to gang up against China, and China vows retaliation against those countries. So I wonder if it's safe to say that they're probably not going to be buying treasuries anytime soon. And also, in the midst of that, here's Trump calling Powell a major loser, which I'm not a big fan of Powell and the Fed, although it just kind of seemed like, is that necessary right now? I mean, this is already fragile enough.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is if the US dollar, I mean, it honestly, to me, it's never been a safe haven, right? But what happens to the underpinnings of the global financial system? Can you see how, if we keep, and I'm not saying he could stop everything today, right? And stop all of the tariffs and all of the talk around Powell and everything. But frankly, the damage has already been done. And China has been absolutely using this opportunity, because you should never let a good crisis go to waste, right? And they've been using this opportunity to establish, reinforce, whatever, those alliances that the U.S. has turned their back on. I mean, this is a con game, and it requires confidence, and the world is losing confidence, or maybe has already lost the confidence. We just haven't seen the full force of that yet. So you can't find safety in fiat money markets or crypto markets or
Would that be a good bumper sticker? You can't find confidence in fiat.
exactly that, but then they'd think it was the car.
Well, that goes back, I guess, to the earlier question of everything you're saying makes sense. Do you think we actually get to a point where governmentally some sort of system based on gold and silver, that do you think we're heading back to that? And what would that look like?
Oh my goodness. That would require fiscal responsibility. And I don't think that the governments would do that on a willing basis, because if it is redeemable, right? Redeemable gold money, then if you did not like what the politicians were doing, you would simply walk in with one of these and walk out with this, right? So, and that then created restrictions around how much spending governments can do. So I will say that they will not do this voluntarily, but they will do it if enough people can come together on a global basis. There's local and then there's global. And on a global basis, if goodness, we can get 3% of the population to convert their garbage fiat money into sound money, then I think we have a really strong shot at getting redeemable gold and maybe some redeemable silver back in the monetary system again. But if we can't get that, then the answer is no, and you better become your own central banker, which quite frankly you should be doing right now anyway, and create security around all of the things that you need in the mantra: food, water, energy, etc. But yes, I think we've got a shot. That's what I'm working for. Locally, I sit on the advisory board of the Sound Money movement, and we're working hard on getting gold and silver set up as legal tender in different states, right? Because on a local basis, if we can get enough states that do that, that can put pressure on the federal government. But we need to do it globally as well. So that's my battle. That's probably a little bit different, because that's what I've come to understand I'm supposed to be doing on this planet.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it seems like the eastern half of the globe, they seem ready, if not already on board. And yeah, I guess just in terms of governmental response, keep in mind that the Treasury has a big toolkit if needed for bonds. Fascinating interview. I was slightly disappointed he didn't say a big bazooka like Mario Draghi, or a big paper shooting gun like Lynette Zang, but I'm sure that will be in his next commentary, no doubt. Although, Lynette, last question before we let you run today, and I want video of you in the supermarket showering, like some guy over there looking at his broccoli, and just get him with some $1 trillion platinum coin notes. I'm sure they'll collateralize those second they actually end up making them, which maybe will happen. Although, Lynette, what do you think is going to come of this Fort Knox audit? It seems like it's been quiet on that lately. I mean, I guess they've had a couple other things they've been busy with, but are we going to see that? Do you think that by the time it's all released, that they will tell you anything that you'll be able to believe in or feel good about, or any thought on what might come of that one?
Well, I think that if enough pressure from the rest of the world is put on the US, that Fort Knox audit might indeed happen. And it's all going to depend, because they can have stacks and stacks of gold bars or even tungsten painted like gold in there. It's not, is it in there? It's the audit trail, right? Because they created so many different accounting tools to lease it out, to leverage it, to make it look like more, that even if I saw the bars there, I would want to follow that audit trail to see who the legal owner is. But I could see the world forcing the US into that because, I mean, after all, if we presumably have more gold than anywhere else, right? Well, if all the confidence is lost in the US and the dollar, I could see the world forcing that. And I think that when push comes to shove, even if it's physically there, and of course, possession's 9/10 of the world, or 9/10 of the law. So are we headed into World War III? But I could easily see that the world forcing us to prove that we have it and we own it, because more and more we're watching globally bankers and governments accumulate more gold than they ever have historically. So they're gearing up, and I could see them forcing us to prove it. And it'll be
Oh, that would be fantastic. Well, not fantastic good, but just in terms of theatrical and like great to watch if you're not about to get clobbered one way or the other by it. And I know Elon talked about doing like a live stream of going in there, and if they ever let some media in, I'll meet you there, Lynette. And who knows? I can only assume Elon is watching today, as all important executives do with interviews with Lynette Zang. And maybe he could give a call over to Zang Enterprises. You could help him with the audit. And just in case he's a little tied up, I know you do help a lot of other people navigate what's going on through here. And now you have your own business, which is over a year now, I believe. But maybe you could just let folks know what you do and what they could look forward to.
Well, absolutely. What we do is we work with a sound money strategy. Since I've been studying currencies and currency life cycles since 1987. And first I wanted to define what sound money is, because people don't really know. And it's money that is above all governments and central bankers and cannot be inflated away. But there are patterns in any life cycle, whether it's human or currencies. And so what we help people do is create a layered portfolio so that no matter where we are in this trend, as we're making this transition, you've got gold and silver to bridge it, to sustain your standard of living, and to put yourself in a position to actually end up better on the other side of this than you were before you entered it, or certainly while we're going through it. And we love human contact. So you could call us. I love our phone number, 833 GLDZANG. And I'll translate it, 833-453-9264. But yeah, we're all about education, as you well know, and helping people really understand the technical language of the markets and recognize patterns so that they can make educated choices that put their best interest first. And it definitely does include silver.
Well, that's always good to hear. Silver, an important part, even if, in fact, I know we didn't dig too much into silver today, but here we now, as we're wrapping up, gold actually, wow, falling while we were talking, Lynette. Again, we're recording Tuesday afternoon. Gold was above 3,500, now below 3,400, down 30 bucks on the day. Silver is still up, so at least we've seen some divergence, but today working in silver's favor, and glad that you're there and able to talk with people and help answer their questions. So, Lynette, sure appreciate you making some time. Great to see you as always, and hopefully we'll catch up at one of these shows in person soon. And just look forward to seeing you again.
Let's do that, Chris. Long time no see. Let's get together in person. It'd be great.
All right. Well, we'll see what the gold price is by the time that happens. Maybe there'll be a four in front, but always fun to follow, and we'll catch up again soon, my friend.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you to Lynette, and thank you for watching at home. Sure hope you enjoyed today's show. It was nice to spend part of the day with you, and certainly fascinating things happening in gold and silver land. For anyone who felt bored over the past decade, hopefully this makes up for it. And real quick, before we wrap up, I did also want to thank Silver Viper Minerals, who brought us today's show. And as you know, Silver Viper, it's been an interesting year where they've been waiting on a deal to get the financing in place to continue to go out and drill. Fortunately, I do not have a specific change or update on that today, other than they are still working towards that. And obviously, depending on how that deal goes down and the drill results, will have a big impact on the company going forward. So a bit of a complex situation, although should those things come into place, as is still the expectation, obviously that could lead to a good outcome. So by all means, if you're looking for more information or want to find out about their La Virginia Gold and Silver project, where they already do have their maiden resource and have added ounces in the interim before they update that resource after the drilling plans, which is what they're working towards. You can get more information on that by going to silverviperminerals.com and clicking on the contact tab and find out more about what is going on there in what's become an interesting situation, although looking forward to good news soon. And with that said, going to wrap up for today. But hope you're having a great day out there. Thanks for being here, and we will see you again tomorrow.